Until the shooting, the only slaughter committed against the Nimrod Theatre had been confined to the review pages of the Cairo newspapers. A cosy but unimposing little auditorium off Camel Street, the Nim, as its habitués preferred to call it, was known more for the brio of its productions than for their commercial success. Before that warm and otherwise agreeable Cairene night, an audience could rest safe in the knowledge that a pistol was nothing more lethal than a prop, that the shot that made them jump in their seats was merely a blank, the resulting blood comfortingly fake. But, as all theatre folk know only too well, even the best runs must come to an end some day. The time of the attack, 10:27 p.m., was not in doubt, it being the solemn habit of the manager, an over-earnest young Egyptian named Musa Banoudi, to set the foyer clock in accordance with the start of Radio Cairo's early evening news broadcast. That night it took a fatal ricochet, stopping the hands dead, and thus precluding any debate. Outside, beyond the Nim's Moorish archways, painted a lustrous red and gold in a European's imagining of a caliph's treasury, the city was taking its pleasures as it did on any other night. In the adjacent Ezbekia Gardens, a slice of Belle Epoque Paris transported to Egypt, the street lamps threw their warm light into the groves of banyan and acacia trees. Friends and lovers strolled along the pathways, around the lake and over the little wrought-iron footbridge. At nearby Santi's, a cosmopolitan mix of Egyptians, Lebanese, British and French queued noisily for a late table. In the long bar at Shepherd's Hotel, and on the floating nightclubs moored along the Nile, the lounge lizards were hard at work. At the Kit Kat Club, officers from the British garrison vied with smooth young men from King Farouk's court for the attention of the chorus girls. And at the Nimrod Theatre, that evening's performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, already dismissed by the theatre critic of Al-Mizri as lackluster, had just drawn to a close. Behind the safety curtain, the cast were rushing to cleanse themselves of grease paint and sweat. In the auditorium, the house lights were up and the audience was already pushing for the exits. Awaiting them in the lane outside was a small squadron of taxis, from which issued a growing hysteria of waving arms and blaring motor horns, the usual Cairo method of attracting trade. The more romantically inclined could choose instead a hantor, a horse-drawn carriage. There were several for hire that night, whose drivers, clad in traditional galabeas, sat cradling their long whips like fishermen at their rods. And while the Cairo police later took copious statements from them all, it was perhaps inevitable that their attention was focused more on those coming out of the theatre's lobby than on the 4 men who entered it. They came from the direction of Ibrahim Pasha Square, or so the driver of the hantor nearest the entrance said later to a white-jacketed Cairo police constable, while his horse munched from its nosebag. And there were 3 of them, not 4. Not so, claimed a motorcab driver. They came from across the gardens, and they were 5 in number. They were European gangsters. They were Egyptian nationalists. They were Jews. They were the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they came by tram. While the shaken witnesses inside the foyer each had their own recollection and guarded it jealously, all agreed there had been no warning given. "It wasn't as if they came in brandishing Tommy guns like mobsters from Chicago," said the redoubtable Madame Nazul, who ran the front of house. And indeed, had she been smoking one of her foul Kiriazi Frere, it is quite possible that in the resulting smoke screen, no one could have described the assassins in any consistent detail at all. "I thought they were waiting for someone," Madame Nazul told the fiercely mustachioed detective inspector who took her statement. They being 4 gentlemen in overcoats and fedoras. "They came in over there," she said, pointing at the left-hand brass-edged swing door that led to the street. "Maybe 2 minutes before the inner doors opened." And then, turning with an imperious sweep of her hand, she gave the inspector a rapid visual tour of the foyer,